Hey everyone, welcome to this edition of Just Parlays. I'm Jim Williams, along with my partner in crime, the man, the legend, the man who understands how to make parlays into cash. That, of course, is the king himself, betting royalty, Chris King. Chris, how are you, buddy?
Good, Jim. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. It was a lot of fun stuff went on the past couple of evenings, and last night was no exception. It was Groundhog Day, and some of the things that we told people to pay attention to, by God, they went out and they just did us prep.
Yeah, but for everyone like that, you get some team like, Stony Brook that decides not to show up at home and, lose. Or the Nets. There's always the Nets.
There's always the Nets, yeah. But, it's one of those teams where you look at them and go, they should be better than this, but yet not. But the good news is, for those of you NBA fans, coming later, we call this a tease. We got the two best teams in the NBA playing tonight, and Chris is breaking that down. So you get to hear a little bit about the Golden State Warriors and, of course, the Phoenix Suns. So that's coming up.
You also get to hear about bad teams like the Sacramento Kings and the Detroit Pistons.
Well, yeah, there's that too. With a little bit of good always comes a little bit of bad. You got to take it as you get it. Tell you what, folks, before we get started, let's talk about Caesars, because they have a new cool thing. And, our buddies at Caesars are always trying to help us out here. And they've got a new deal for winners and whiners, okay? And here's the deal. If you use their sports app on their phone, which we hope you do, just download it. And, what happens next is that they've got a deal for, winners and whiners. And because you guys, follow us, they want to give you a reward. Okay, so here's the reward. They're going to match your first deposit with a free bet of up to $1,500 when you deposit at least $50 if you use the promo code, which is both in the show box and screaming there, in front of you. So the cool part of this is it's Caesars Sportsbook, right? I mean, that's one of the most pristine sports books in the business. And it's the only one where when you win, you actually also get Caesars rewards, which is phenomenal stuff. So you get a twofer, right? You get the opportunity that when you sign up for the first time and you use that app, they're going to match your first deposit with a free bet up to $1,500. But because they're doing this only for us at Winners and Whiners, you have to use that promo code when prompted, all right? So that's the deal they've got. Now, lest you think that we have things that we don't have for other people. That's not true. We have a fun deal going with our buddies at BetMGM. Now, BetMGM has an offer, which is also cool. MGM offers you, for Winners and Whiners region, a very cool deal for new signups. And here's that deal. What happens is Winners and Whiners fans can get a risk-free first bet up to $1,000 for any new customers, but only when you deposit $10 or more to get started. And again, that's by using their app, okay? So you download, the BetMGM app, and you follow the prompts. You put your cash in. They're going to give you, risk-free bet up to $1,000 for all the new customers. But you have to deposit, put a little skin in the game, a little $10, okay? So that's that. Now, if you happen to be down in Louisiana, because, we've got a lot of friends down there in the New Orleans area, then we got a deal for you there. Now, that comes with the, that of course is the MGM one, so follow that one. But we have something from there. It's Bet Rivers, and the folks at Bet Rivers has a cool one. Fans in the state of Louisiana, check out the Bet Rivers app. They will match your first deposit up to $250, okay? So all that's in the show box below, and throughout the show today, we'll be going back and forth. You'll see those streams going across, under, so that you'll be able to, even make bets while you're with us here watching the show, okay? Now, again, we want you to note that in all of those cases, whether it's Caesars Sportsbook whether it's BetMGM or whether it's folks down at Rivers Casino in Louisiana, that you must be 21 years of age to participate, right? Cool. And bet responsibly. Okay, that's all we ask. But we ask you to have fun. Okay, so follow the people that we have. All of it's in the show box below. And we will see you. Okay, we'll see you on along the line. Please tell us how much you like Caesars or MGM or Bet Rivers, because we like your feedback, and we know that you guys always have questions. Chris, before we get to the games, we have some really interesting questions. You want to start with James's question? By the way, James, before you even start, because I know you're gonna, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button. We definitely want that. So let's find our buddy James, and James has an interesting one. Chris, let's see if we can find James up there.
Yeah, he's right at the top.
He's all the way up there. James is asking us for a little bit of help on New Orleans, which they play tonight. Vermont, which doesn't play tonight.
Yeah, I'm taking Vermont minus $3 billion over the bye team.
Over, yeah. Unless he's talking about the Vermont ladies team, but I don't think they're playing either. Ohio, Hawaii, and Youngstown. Okay. All right, James. Well, since you're a regular, on the show, we definitely going to take care of you if we can. Okay. Here you go.
And let's also say hi to our other regulars like Unknown and Joaquin and Euler.
Yeah.
Euler with the Arizona Cactus. Always a fan there. Let's start with the opening game that James has there. He had asked about New Orleans. They're playing everybody's favorite school from the state of Texas. That's right, Texas A&M Corpus Christi. It's going to be an interesting game down there in Texas. New Orleans, of course, playing down in the Southland Conference. They're 12-8 overall. They're 5-0 in the conference. They've won 8 straight games coming into this one. But they're going on the road to face a Texas A&M Corpus Christi team that is 16-6, and they're coming off a loss at Northwestern State. Let's face it, Texas A&M Corpus Christi thrives on forcing turnovers. They're 6th in the nation in turnover percentage defensively at 25.4%. And that could be a problem because the Privateers turn it over on 20.9% of their possessions, which is 299th in the country. I get the fact that New Orleans has been on a roll, but they haven't been all that great necessarily as a road team. You look at the numbers; they're 2-5 on the road. Texas Corpus Christi is 8-1 at home. They're given 4 points in this one. I expect that the Islanders, interesting name for a team from Texas, has too much offense, and they're a little bit better on the defensive end than the Privateers are. I look for New Orleans to either win the end tonight in Texas as the Islanders cover the 4-point line. Now, Hawaii and UC Riverside. Hawaii's played some good basketball this year. I don't understand how. They had a big break in their schedule due to issues back in December and the first part of January. They come in themselves with 7 straight wins. They're 6-0 in the Big West. They just beat UC Santa Barbara at home. But now they got to go on the road to face UC Riverside. Highlanders have won 4 of 6. They're coming in off a loss to UC Davis with Jim Less. As we always say, less is more when it comes to them. The Highlanders are a short 2.5-point favorite here. Hawaii's 3-1 on the road, but that's not really a big track record to go against. And when you look at the Highlanders are 13th in the nation in scoring defense, giving up 60 points a game. That almost makes up for the fact that they're horrible on the offensive end of the floor. Playing at home, I like the Highlanders minus 2.5. It's going to be a low-scoring game. That's not something Hawaii wants to play. It's not their style by any stretch of the imagination. Look for the Highlanders to get the win. Eastern Michigan and Ohio. What can we tell you about this one other than Eastern Michigan is terrible?
And Ohio isn't.
That's probably being generous, saying that Eastern Michigan is terrible. They are 8-12 overall, but they're 1-9 on the road, and they have to go to face an Ohio team that's 17-3 overall. 11-1 on their own floor this season. I know 15.5 points is a scary number sometimes, but when you consider how well the Bobcats have played, and like we talked about with Ben Vanderplas and Jason Carter, they're coming off a 24-point win over Ball State on Tuesday in a game where we said that they would have a little problem dealing with the Cardinals. Mark Sears also putting up big numbers for Ohio. Eastern Michigan just doesn't have the firepower to keep up. They're coming off a 20-point home loss to Toledo. They've won 5 of 6 coming into this one. Stan Heath's team is in trouble, especially since they don't score offensively. Ohio should win that convincingly at home. And finally, everybody's favorite team, to talk about college basketball around here, that's right, Youngstown State. They're going to go on the road. They're going to take on IUPUI, Jaguars. They're 2-17 now. That's right. They got a win the other day. East West University. That's not a fake name. I looked it up. It's real. They beat them 75-59. So their best offensive output of the season, surpassing the 65 points they scored against Illinois Chicago last month. I got news for you. If you beat a team called East West University, doesn't mean you're going to beat Youngstown State. The Penguins, they've won 2 in a row. They beat Green Bay. They beat Milwaukee, both double figures. They're going on the road here. You get that's going to be a problem, but let's face it, IUPUI is still dead last in the nation when it comes to putting points on the board. They've broken the 60-point mark once all season against a Division I team. That was that winning or that loss to UIC on January 10th. There are 2 highest scoring games otherwise were against non-Division I programs. When you're shooting 41.9% as an effective field goal percentage, if you turn it over on nearly 27% of your possession, it doesn't bode well. I mean, we saw this a couple weeks ago when they went to Ohio State and got thrashed in a game where John was happy because they were getting some points until they lost by 46. I think Youngstown State covers here. Oh, Murray State, James, well, don't worry, we got you. So we'll have you covered on Murray State here in a minute. But everybody else, like I said, UC Riverside, Ohio, Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and Youngstown State should all come up winners tonight, much to the chagrin of Hawaii, New Orleans, Eastern Michigan. I think anybody that's even an alumnus of there has given up being a fan, and IUPUI, of course, the local darlings of our show.
You know, one thing, James, you ought to look out for today, and that's that in the Ohio game against Eastern Michigan. There's some really bad weather in the Midwest, okay?
Yeah, that ended up postponing Memphis-Cincinnati. That was supposed to be tonight.
Right. So keep an eye out to see if this game goes off as planned, because it's pretty wicked, and I know that it's only going to get worse as the day goes on. And so I would keep an eye out any of those games in the Midwest tonight, or even let's say, I would say from, say, Pittsburgh and West Virginia west to probably Chicago. I would keep an eye on that and just draw your line down to the south, because it's definitely some bad weather even down in Texas. So I would clearly pay attention to it before you make a wager. Just keep an eye on it. Keep an eye on the weather. You should always do that anyway. But anyway, it's something you want to do. Let's go to the big board, buddy.
All right, let me go back here.
Whoops. All right, I'll take the big board out of the way.
Nope, there we go. I got it.
All right, now, meanwhile, take 2. Let's go to the big board.
Yeah, James was just asking about Murray State. We've got them right here against on the road. Murray State favored by 13 as they head to face the Governors. Murray State's 20-2 this year. He is 7-11. The Governors 3-3 at home, but the Racers are 6-1. That should be on the road. I mistyped it this morning. Murray State 8th in the nation in scoring offense at 82.1 points a game. They are 12th in field goal percentage at 48.8. They're 21st in 2-point shooting at 56.5%, and they're 65th in 3-point shooting. Meanwhile, they're facing an Austin Peay team that struggles on the offensive end of the floor. Governors are 286 in scoring offense at 67.4 points per game. They're 254th in field goal percentage. They're 306 in 3-point shooting. Murray State 6-2 in their last 8 overall. 6-2 against the spread in their last 8 after a straight-up win, and they're 5-2 against the spread in their last 7 as a favorite. Austin Peay is 2-5-1 against the spread in their last 8 following a straight-up victory. It's hard to have faith in the Governors. I mean, let's face it, they're a good basketball team. They're facing a Murray State team that is pretty much like their way through the Ohio Valley Conference to this point of the season. They're coming off an 11-point win at home over Morehead State on Saturday. Before that, they swept Tennessee Tech at a home and home. They've swept Eastern Illinois at a home and home. And they've got that 22-point thumping of Belmont on January 15th on the road in a game that's going to do them a lot of favors when it comes to determining the top seed in the Ohio Valley Conference tournament. Mm-hmm. I think that Murray State, they're not going to get tripped up here by Austin Peay. They'll run their win streak to 11 straight games triumphing here.
Okay, moving on from what should be an interesting night for Murray State. Again, watch the weather in this area. It's they're right in the smack dab in the same zone as the Ohio situation. So keep an eye out for that for Murray State and Austin Peay tonight.
And people are saying your speakers are messing up the audio.
What they said? Well, I'm sorry.
They said that your speakers are messing up the audio.
Well, I'm terribly sorry, but they seem to be fine here on this end. As the old saying goes, when we used to do games out of a remote truck, it looks good from here. So I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, they're just saying they're hearing echo.
I hear no echo, boys, but we'll see when I listen to it on playback. We'll find out where that might be coming from. So anyway, sorry. Belmont and Tennessee State.
Yep, this one's at Tennessee State. Belmont on the road. They're favored by 15.5 points. They're 17-5 this year. Like we said, they did have that horrible loss at home to Murray State. Tennessee State 9-13 on the year. The Tigers, they are 6-3 at home, but the Bruins are 7-3 on the road. And Belmont, just like Murray State, another good offensive team, 12th in the nation in scoring offense at 81.3 points a night. They're 5th in field goal percentage, 49.6. And Jim, look at that number inside the arc, 60.3%. Second in the country. You're going to beat a lot of teams when you're shooting that ball from the inside 3-point range. And they're 33rd in threes per game at 9.4. So they're a balanced offensive attack. Yeah. Meanwhile, Tennessee State 250 in scoring defense, 258 field goal percentage defense, 239 in 2-point defense, and 224 in 3-point defense, 33.9%. Belmont 5-1 in their last 6 on the road against teams with a home winning percentage better than 600. They're 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 on the road against teams with a winning home record. Tennessee State 1-6 against the spread in their last 7 at home after 3 or more games on the road, and they're 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 on Thursday. Now I know that Belmont, they have been prone to slipping up here and there. They lost to Morehead State on the road, but they've come in with 3 straight wins. They beat Eastern Illinois by 34. They beat Austin Peay by 8, and they beat Tennessee Martin by 29. You have to think they can get the better of a Tennessee State team that is stumbling along. They're coming off a 5-point loss on the road to Eastern Illinois, a team that we've talked about has been horrible this season. They've lost 3 of their last 5. They've lost 5 of their last 8. I have to think that Belmont will take care of business and hand Tennessee State another loss.
Stumbling and bumbling, let's say, right?
Yep.
All right, so let's move on. We're going to go to Oakland, but not necessarily the Oakland you think.
Right. Well, actually, this one is on the road. It's in, like we said, I'm guessing Northern Kentucky, since that's the name of the school.
Right.
A good Horizon League match as Northern Kentucky. They've played some decent basketball of late. You got to watch out for Darren Horn in the North. They come in with 5 straight wins. They're 7-4. They're coming off a win over Cleveland State on Sunday. and they've also beaten Wright State in that stretch, another good team from the Horizon. Problem for the North is they don't score a lot of points, and that doesn't really bode well when you're facing an Oakland team that likes to run. The Golden Grizzlies, they've won their last 10. They've won 3 in a row. They beat Illinois Chicago Saturday in their last game. They're 16-5 overall. They're 9-1 in the Horizon League. You have to think about the fact, the North's 8-3 at home, the Grizzlies 6-4 on the road. They're 57th in scoring offense. They're 58th in 2-point shooting, and they're 5th in free throw shooting. It's a big number when you're hitting better than 80% at the stripe. The North's 243rd in scoring offense, 69 points a game. They're 326th in field goal percentage at 40.5%. They're 311th in 2-point shooting, and they struggle at the charity stripe, which is really going to be at a disadvantage here as they take on Oakland. I mean, when you're shooting 67.6%, and the opponent's shooting better than 80, you have a tough time on the night at the line. Oakland 6-1 in their last 7 against teams with a winning record. They're 4-1 in their last 5 against teams with a home winning percentage greater than 600. The North 1-5 in their last 6 against teams with a winning percentage above 600. I think Oakland will get the win there in a tight game, but free throw shooters make all the difference in the world, like we see with Boise State at times.
Yeah, I mean, we've really beat on it here that in college basketball, so many of these games come down to free throws. And exactly. The teams that can make them are the teams that win. The teams that can't are the teams that will be sitting home in March wondering why the madness is not happening for them. So we'll see. We definitely will see. And, we're now going, because the NHL is not playing.
Right.
We're going to go, and we're going to go to the association where we have some fun stuff going on the professional argument.
Frank, to answer your question about picking favorites, I don't always pick favorites. I've gone with several underdogs that have ended up panning out. Last night I took Wisconsin. I don't think they actually panned out for me, though, despite getting 7 points because Kofi Cockburn destroyed everybody inside for Illinois. But I'm not going to sit around and chase a 20-some point underdog just for the sake of saying that we chased a 20-some point underdog. Basically, it boils down to I go with who I think is the best team to win, and I go with the numbers. I don't necessarily pay attention to what the line is most of the time until I look at it at the end of the day. So it boils down to, you're trying to come up with the best options to win, and because that's what we're trying to deliver here is we're trying to help you guys with winners. You want to say that we gave you a list of 10 teams that were underdogs that were ridiculously overvalued. Like, we could talk about San Jose State getting double-digit points. We can talk about we just talked about IUPUI getting 30-some points against Ohio State. I didn't tell you to chase IUPUI in that game either, because at the end of the day, people want to make money, not just chase money, because of the fact that they might get a better return on their investment should that team suddenly cover. That's not the way, unfortunately, things pan out. If you want to talk about underdogs, we talked about taking the Rangers last night as an underdog against the Florida Panthers, and the Rangers won that one 5-3. We also said to take Edmonton over Washington, and of course, in that game, right after we talked about seeing Ovechkin, of course, then he came down testing positive for COVID, and that knocked him out of the game and our weekend. But
we've done a lot of opportunities of giving underdogs an opportunity, but at the end of the day, Chris, again, this is one of the good things about what you're seeing from Winners and Whiners is you're getting analytics. Okay, this is like Moneyball, literally, and you can look at the stats and you can say, well, what does it all mean? Well, it all means there's a reason why a team is not winning, and if you break it down, as Chris does, it all has to do with stats. Does that mean that somebody's going to go out and have a wonderful night and basically go against the numbers? Sure, it happens. But that's why they call it gambling. Otherwise, they call it, in the words of Charlie Sheen, winning. So That's why we say you have to be smart in your wagering and you have to be careful. Okay. So
yeah, one thing about that too that I found is you tend to get a lot better mileage out of underdogs in hockey than you do in underdogs in basketball, especially in college, because there's such a great disparity in some of these teams. I mean, you look at, we'll just say the Big Ten. If you look at Purdue and Illinois and Michigan State, and then you look at Nebraska and, well, we'll just stick with Nebraska because they're the worst team in the Big Ten. I mean, you have such a disparity there that it's tough to try and chase an underdog. There are in hockey, you get a lot more bang for your buck out of that. I mean, we just saw it the night with Arizona as a massive underdog, cashing in and beating Colorado. But I mean, in the NBA and stuff, and the NBA is volatile of late with having guys get scratched at the last minute where you're not expecting it, and all of a sudden, oh look, Joel Embiid's out, or look, Trae Young's not playing, and they don't announce these things right before tip-off. So then you get such a massive fluctuation in the line, it can make a giant mess of things. I mean, I try to get a good mix in there, and that's something I'll keep an eye out for going forward, just so you guys can get a little bit better mix, because we're here to try and do the best we can for you guys, because you're the guys that are watching the show.
Right, and the other part of it too is this is parlays, so you can find but at the end of the day, you're going to get approximately anywhere from probably 40 to 50 combinations. Okay, and so you got options here. So by all means, we hear what you're saying, and we'll do our best. But also understand that what we give you out there is good information, and what you do with it, hopefully, is you use it wisely, right? Okay. So meanwhile, Golden State and Sacramento, and
this one boils down to basically the fact that Sacramento is 6-18 on the road, and they give 117.5 points a game away from the Golden One Center. And B, they're 3-7 in the second game of back-to-backs. Meanwhile, Golden State, they just beat San Antonio the other night and didn't play seemingly 3/4 of their starting rotation because, you saw Jordan Poole and a whole bunch of guys that you probably couldn't identify in a lineup. The Warriors, 39-13 overall. They're 24-4 at home. Like we said, the Kings played a second game of back-to-back. They hurt me yesterday because not me personally, because I don't like the Nets, but I thought the Nets would win. But Brooklyn, went tank and lost 112-101. But now Sacramento's got to deal with a Golden State team that leads the league in defense. They lead the league in field goal percentage defense. They're second in three-point defense. Meanwhile, Sacramento, 28th in scoring defense at 114.5 points a game. They're 28th in field goal percentage defense, 22nd in three-point defense. The Kings are 2-10 against the spread in their last 12 on the road. They're 2-8 against the spread in their last 10 as a road underdog. Golden State 4-1-1 against the spread in their last 6 overall. And they're 4-1-1 in their last 6 after a straight-up win. Now, if we threw out the money to you at this game, you would probably vomit, because I'm just going to look and see what it is. I usually don't look at the lines in the NBA because everybody just wants to know what the point spread is. The line is Golden State minus 1,000. So there you go. It's a very high number, to say the least. Injury report shows for Golden State, Nemanja Bjelica will not play with a back spasm. Draymond Green's still out with his back issue. Andre Iguodala with a hip. Otto Porter is questionable. And, of course, James Wiseman remains out for that one. Sacramento has not submitted their injury report yet, but last I saw, Marvin Bagley was still out. De'Aaron Fox was still questionable. And Terrence Davis is out with that wrist injury. It boils down to Golden State should have Curry and Thompson and Andrew Wiggins, all those guys on the floor here. It's too much for Sacramento to handle, especially playing the second game of a back-to-back. And especially if Fox doesn't play, you have to give the edge to Golden State.
No question. Let's move on from Sacramento and Golden State to Miami, and Miami got bit by the bug recently too. So
yeah, that was one of the underdog picks that I took that schmaltzed me because I took Miami against Boston on the road, and like you said, Jim, in pre-show, Eric Spoelstra trotted out a bunch of fans or staff members from the team, and they probably got schmaltzed by 30 by the Celtics in a game that probably wasn't even that close. And then they turned around and lost to Toronto because they fell apart in the second half because of the second game of back-to-back for them.
mm-hmm.
But here they're on the road against San Antonio, and we've seen San Antonio play some bad basketball. The Spurs are 19 and 33 on the year overall. The Heat 32 and 20. San Antonio is 10 and 17 at home. Miami 14 and 14 on the road. Miami 6th in scoring defense, 105 points a game. They're 9th in field goal percentage defense. They're 18th in three-point defense. San Antonio is 25th in scoring defense. They're 20th in field goal percentage defense. They're 19th in three-point defense. But I mean, the biggest factor here, how are you 10 and 17 at home when you play in a division where you get to face the Rockets twice and the Pelicans twice in your own building? Not to mention some of the other bad teams in the West. Miami 7-2 in their last 9 after a straight-up loss. Meanwhile, San Antonio 1-6 in their last 7 as an underdog. They're 0-5 in their last 5 as a home underdog. And Miami's 4-1-1 in the last 6 meetings of teams against the spread. I like the Heat to bounce. I'll just take a quick look at pressing on the injury report and see if we have anything here. Does not look like there's much to talk about on that front. San Antonio. Doug McDermott and DeJounte Murray are questionable for the Spurs. Oh, Jakob Poeltl has now been ruled out. He's in the concussion protocol. Jimmy Butler questionable for Miami. Kyle Lowry questionable as he's trying to come back from being out for personal reasons. PJ Tucker also questionable. Meanwhile, Omar Yurtseven in the protocols. Victor Oladipo, of course, still out. KZO has been out since December with a wrist injury. Markieff Morris has been out since November with a neck injury. He's trying to get back to conditioning. Hopefully Butler plays. I mean, he didn't play the other night and they got killed. Hopefully Lowry comes back. That's been a big blow for Miami because, this Gabe Vincent and more run time at the point. But I think Miami has enough weapons to take advantage of a porous San Antonio defense. And Greg Popovich has got to be pulling his hair out, wondering, what happened to San Antonio's defense.
Yeah, these two teams are a long way from the two teams that during the LeBron Heat tenure with Tim Duncan and the San Antonio Spurs fought it out for the title. I believe it was 3 years in a row where they battled each other for the NBA championship. But okay, from the Heat and the Spurs, we head out to
Atlanta.
There you go.
The Suns and the Hawks. And you're talking about a couple of hot teams right now. I mean, Phoenix 41-9, they lead the league, of course. Atlanta's almost back to 500 after their struggles. The Suns have won 11 in a row. Atlanta's won 7 of 8. Of course, their loss came in their last game when they lost 110-106 to Toronto. Or, sorry, 106-100 to Toronto. In a game where they ruled Trae Young out shortly before tip-off. Of course, we didn't know that at the time. But that's just the way things have been in the NBA. Meanwhile, Atlanta 14-12 at home. The Suns a sparkling 19-4 on the road, so they've actually lost more games at home than they have on the road this season. The Suns are third in scoring offense at 113 points a game. They lead the league in field goal percentage at 47.8. They lead the league in three-point shooting, or fourth in the league in three-point shooting at 36.6. Atlanta's good offensively. They're eighth in the league in that category, but they're 23rd in scoring defense. And they're 21st in field goal percentage defense, along with 21st in three-point defense. Trae Young is questionable tonight with that shoulder contusion. You have to be concerned about whether he'll take the floor. The Suns 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 of the road favorite. They're 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 on the road. Atlanta's 5-16 in their last 21 against teams with a winning percentage above 600. and they're 1-4 in their last 5 after a straight up loss. But the thing about Young concerns me, of course. Let me just check the latest on the injury report 20 minutes ago. DeAndre Hunter's probable. Trae Young still listed as questionable. For the Suns, DeAndre Ayton and Jay Crowder are probable. They did play Tuesday night against the Nets, so that's not a surprise. Cameron Payne out with a wrist sprain. And, of course, Frank Kaminsky, Abdel Nader, and Dario Saric have been out long-term. Landry Shamet's also out with an ankle sprain for the Suns. But in the end, Atlanta has to play the second game of back-to-back tomorrow. They're probably going to be trying to save a little bit of energy here. But it looks like, Phoenix is going to run their win streak to 12 as they prevail here. Yeah, Euler, I'm disappointed too. There's no hockey. There won't be any hockey unless you count the All-Star game until Monday. On Monday, you'll see Carolina, Toronto, and Ottawa, New Jersey. So stay tuned for those games. The Arizona Cactus, in case you're wondering, don't take the ice until – let me double-check. I give you the right date because I know everybody's excited about when the Cactus take the ice. They will be in action next Tuesday, February 8th. They go on the road to face Jim's buddy Bruce Boudreau up in Columbia.
Vancouver. Before we get to the 2 for the money, 4 for the show, and the rest of the group, we really want to talk to you about what's going on with our buddies at Caesars. Now, Caesars Sportsbook has a brand new mobile app offer for Winners and Whiners customers. Now, what you need to do is understand that it's a first-time offer. So basically, if you haven't used the Caesars Sportsbook app, you download it from the App Store or from Google Play. Then what happens is when you sign in, they're going to match your first deposit with a free bet up to $1,500 when you deposit at least $50 in your account and use the promo code as you see right there. It goes by. It's also in the show box below. So again, that's, you're getting one of the best sports apps in the business when it comes to wagering. And that, of course, is Caesars Sportsbook. They also give you Caesars Rewards. So it really is a cool opportunity. If you're a new sign up, they're going to match your first deposit with a free bet up to $1,500 when you deposit at least $50 in your account and use that Winners and Whiners promo code, which is streaming below right there and is in the show box below. Now, that's a great deal from Caesars. We also have a great deal from our buddies at BetMGM. The deal at BetMGM is their offer to Winners and Whiners, again, for new signups is this. And again, you're going to have to use your app. And that is Winners and Whiners fans can get a risk-free bet of up to $1,000 for any new customer, but you must deposit $10 to start that off. So simple enough. BetMGM offer to Winners and Whiners. For all new signups, you have to do the risk-free bet of $1,000. You get up a risk-free bet up to $1,000 for new customers only when you make a deposit of at least $10. And of course, you must, on the MGM app, you must use the special promo code VIDEOWINNERS, which scrolls across right there. Okay, so all kinds of fun stuff going on here at Winners and Whiners, and please check out our show box below. Remember that you have to be 21 years of age to place a bet anywhere in the country, and also certainly bet responsibly. Okay, so all right, let's move on, my friend. We are moving up to
a quick score update, Jim.
Okay.
Said the Ohio game already started with Eastern Michigan, and they're already up by 8.
Whoa! So we got a game going on as we speak. Okay, they must want to get ahead of the weather that we talked about.
I think there's a couple of games that they moved the times up. I know they moved Florida, Missouri up yesterday to 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Bellarmine up 6 in the final minute of the first half. Like Jim said, or like James said, Ohio 12, Michigan State 4, or Eastern Michigan 4. 15-10 to go in the first half there. Yeah, let's say there's a few games that they moved up.
We get score updates here. Okay.
Yeah, like Kennesaw State, Eastern Kentucky's been moved to 5 p.m. Southeast Missouri State moved to 5:30. Tennessee Tech and Morehead State is scheduled to tip off any minute if it hasn't already. So yeah, I think like you said, a lot of games were shifted a little bit earlier than expected because of the
get them in. Yeah.
Yeah, surprisingly, Wichita State SMU was postponed. I didn't see what the reasoning for that one was. I'll have to look. But Iowa and Ohio State, which was supposed to be a Big Ten matchup, was postponed as well.
Okay. Let's go for 2 for the money.
All righty.
There it is.
Yep. Like we said, Murray State. We talked about the Racers being on a roll. We talked about Austin Peay. They could be the butter on the roll as Murray State creams them and picks up their 11th straight win. And we said Belmont over Tennessee State. The Ohio Valley is going to come down to one of those two teams. It's going to be Murray State or Belmont. And, Belmont's obviously going to have revenge on their minds when they face Murray State later this month. That game scheduled to take place on February 24th. So circle that one on your calendars. Should these teams win out, and, it'll be a big factor for the top seed Ohio Valley Conference tournament. And, of course, let's face it, the Ohio Valley is probably not going to get 2 bids into March Madness because of how good these teams are. So that could play a critical role come getting the automatic bid. Then on the NBA, we said Miami minus 4.5 over the Spurs. The Spurs are reeling. They don't play defense, and that's a problem. Plus, they don't play good at home. Then you got Phoenix over Atlanta. We said the Trae Young is questionable tonight. Meanwhile, the Suns, they've won 11 in a row. They play well on the road. The Hawks have to play again tomorrow night. I like the Suns minus 4 in that contest.
Let's go to 4 for the show.
All right. Wright State. We didn't get to talk about them today. Wright State, they just faced IPFW over the weekend. They were coming off back-to-back losses. And Wright State tends to bounce back from adversity, and they did. They took it on IPFW by a dozen. Now they face a Detroit Mercy team, that's led by Antoine Davis, who leads the nation in scoring offense. But the problem is that the Titans don't really have anybody else, and they don't play well on the road. They've won 3 in a row, but guess what? Their one road win in that stretch was over Milwaukee, and they just beat Michigan Dearborn, another non-Division I program. It's going to be a challenge, but I think that in the end, Wright State, they brought back 4 starters from last year's team. There's a lot of experience there. This is the time of year where Wright State is going to turn it on down the stretch. Look for them to get the victory at home for Scott Nagy to go to 15-10. Utah State, yeah, it's a big number, but we talk about, and this is one of those games where we said, you want to chase, people want to chase the underdog sometimes, but Utah State was favored by 15.5 over Air Force the other night. We told you to take Utah State there, and they probably won by 27 to avenge a 2-point loss at the Air Force Academy back in late December. The Aggies have won 3 in a row. They beat and one of those wins was over San Diego State by 18 points, and we know what team the Aztecs are. Then they crushed Nevada 29 before beating the Falcons. Meanwhile, San Jose State comes in with 8 straight losses. They're coming off a 30-point home loss to Fresno State. They're not going to be all that fortunate here going on the road against a Utah State team that has seemingly found their way again. Ryan Odom's team, with 3 straight victories after a 4-game slide. And they were competitive in those 4 losses. They lost by 5 at Colorado State. They lost by 2 at home to Wyoming. They lost by 7 at Fresno State, and they lost by 3 at home to Boise State. Look for Utah State 4 straight wins, even their conference record in the Mountain West by stomping San Jose State into oblivion. And James, now with another update, Ohio is now up by 13 points. So they're almost to the point of covering the line already.
James is our update desk. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's like weekend update, only different. Like I said, Golden State over Sacramento. The Kings playing the second game of back-to-back. They have to go on the road. They give up 117.5 points per game away from home. They're just 6-18 as the visiting team. The Warriors should be at pretty much full strength as far as, compared to what we saw the other night. You'll see Curry, he's not on the injury report. Thompson's not on the injury report. Wiggins isn't on the injury report. All those guys should be back and ready to go.
And
Minnesota minus.
I was just going to say, when Golden State plays at home, and most of these teams, when the star laden teams play at home, they really want to give their home crowd something to cheer for and to get them out there. So if they can play, and clearly you just gave the list of everybody who can play, this is probably going to be a good night for the Warriors.
Yeah, and then finally Minnesota over Detroit. The Timberwolves, they beat Denver the other night by 15. They beat Utah by 20 before that. They're facing a Detroit team that, let's sum it up pretty easily. They're bad.
That makes it easy, yeah.
I can't understand. They blew a big lead against New Orleans the other night. Injury report for that game. Cade Cunningham questionable with a hip pointer for the Pistons. Josh Jackson questionable with a spine injury. For Minnesota, Patrick Beverly is questionable. Josh Okogie is questionable. D'Angelo Russell questionable with a shin contusion. Let's face it, they still have Karl Anthony Towns, and Karl Anthony Towns is a better offensive weapon than anybody Detroit can roll out there. And then they still have Anthony Edwards as well. You have to give Timberwolves the edge in that one. Mm-hmm. And for where was it? Unknown about UNC Wilmington. The Hawks are on a roll. I mean, we told you to take them the other night in that game against Drexel at home. Now, I will say this: regression is probably coming soon for the Seahawks because they don't shoot the ball worth a damn. I mean, let's be honest. You look at their numbers offensively, and frankly, they are offensive. They are facing an Elon team that is 6-16. Mike Schrage has had a rough year with the Phoenix. It's hard to go against a team that's won 11 in a row. It's only a 1.5 point line in favor of the Seahawks. Elon 6-3 at home. UNC Wilmington 6-3 on the road. When it comes down to it, UNC Wilmington better on the defensive end of the floor. Elon is not that great defensively. They're 287 scoring defense. They just lost to William & Mary on the road. And I get that Elon's battle tested. They played West Virginia. They played Mississippi. They played Temple. They played North Carolina. They played Duke. They played Arkansas. So they played a lot of good teams. But the fact remains that, they didn't beat anyone. UNC Wilmington, like I said, they're on a roll right now. I would look for the Seahawks making it straight heading into Saturday's contest with William & Mary. The game that concerns me for the Seahawks coming up in the near future will be Monday's game when they have to go on the road to face Hofstra. The Pride has been playing some good basketball of late. And, UNC Wilmington had their hands full with Hofstra at home last Saturday, winning by 6. Might be a little tougher going up to Hempstead to face Speedy Claxton and the Pride then. But tonight, I think you're safe with UNC Wilmington.
Let's move on to the menu. There's plenty of good stuff on that. We'll try to do some quick pops right through the menu, starting with James Madison and Northeastern.
Yeah, James Madison and Northeastern. I look for this to stay under 143.5. The first meeting, you saw 155 points. But let's face it, in that game, the teams combined for 24 threes. And James Madison's not going to shoot 59% from the floor in this one. If you were trying to play the game straight out, I would take James Madison. Northeastern hasn't won a game since December 7th. I feel bad for Bill Cohn. The Huskies have been a good team for a while. They've just hit the skids this year. Hopefully they'll be back next year. But this isn't their season. Wagner over Central Connecticut State. Yeah, Wagner's been playing good basketball. Central Connecticut State, well, they fired Danielle Marshall after last season because he wasn't winning any games. Wagner's won 11 in a row. They're coming out wins over both St. Francis of Pennsylvania and St. Francis of New York. They like covering the bases there.
Nice.
Meanwhile, Central Connecticut, 5-17. They've lost 7 of their last 8. Their lone win in their stretch, a 3-point home victory over Long Island. You look at their record, their best win as far as Ken Pop rankings was that win over LIU, who's rated 231st in the country. Wagner should get the win comfortably there. Utah over Oregon State. This game is at the John M. Huntsman Center in Salt Lake City. Oregon State, they were an Elite 8 team last year. You wouldn't know that now. They're 3-15. Now, one of those wins did go over Utah in Corvallis, so the Utes are out for revenge. Utah, both these teams, Jim, looking for their first win of 2022. Just to give you an idea of how bad the team is, Oregon State 1-7 in the Pac-12, Utah 1-11.
That's not a good one. Pacific and Pepperdine in the
it's a West Coast there. 2 teams that have disappointed. I mean, like we said the other day when we told you to take Santa Clara over Pacific, and they rolled right over them. Pacific was good when Damon Stoudemire was there. They're not good now. Pepperdine was good even last year, but Colby Ross and Kessler Edwards are no longer there. Waves are just 6-17 overall. They're 0-9 on the road. Meanwhile, Pacific, they're a 500 team at home, and they beat BYU there last week. I'm going to take the Tigers over the Waves. Then we've got Jacksonville State. The Gamecocks trying to make a run for the Atlantic Sun title. They're favored at home by 11.5 points over North Florida. Jim, did you know that North Florida was the Ospreys before I put it up there?
Yeah. They are playing Jacksonville.
You talk about weird mascot names. We were talking about Northern Kentucky in the pre-show.
Well, ospreys are a bird that you can find very, frequently up in that part of North Florida and South Georgia. So it makes some sense.
I've never seen one, so I'll take your word for it.
Okay. I'll send you a picture.
All right. The Bulls, this line has actually moved up a point at Chicago plus 4.5. So, hey, look, there you go. There's an underdog. Zach LaVine, I think the reason why this went up is Zach LaVine went from probable to questionable with a back spasm. I know both these teams are playing the first game of back-to-back tonight. The Bulls have won 4 or 5. I know they're on the road, but I like the way the Bulls have played. They've had success. They were minus DeMar DeRozan for a bit. They were minus LaVine for a bit. Vucevic has been in the protocols before. Alonzo Ball's out with wrist surgery. But they're still winning games, and that's a credit to Billy Donovan and what he's done there. The Clippers over the Lakers in the Who Cares game in Los Angeles. We put it in there because, hey, it's one of the games that's on the NBA schedule. I just think the Clippers can get the advantage on the Lakers. I just don't have any faith in Los Angeles right now. Minnesota and the Pistons to go over 228.5. The over's hit in 7 of the last 10 meetings between these teams. Minnesota has gone over the number in 7 of their last 8 themselves. Phoenix and Atlanta over 226.5. Suns play good offensively. Atlanta's good offensively. Atlanta's bad defensively. These teams put up 238 points in the first meeting. Look for it to go over. And Sacramento, Golden State, I look to stay under 224.5. Sacramento, obviously playing the second game of back-to-back. They're going to have a tough time putting points on the board against the Golden State defense that's first in the league. And the Warriors don't need to score 130 points to beat you. Let's look for this one to stay short of the total. James, do you have a score update for us on Ohio real quick? Because he's telling people to hit the like button. I just want to see what the score is, just out of curiosity. It's probably like 3,000 to 2. Well, apparently we don't have an update at this point.
Probably can't have everything. Nice. James, we appreciate the updates. All right, gang. Tomorrow we're going to have a guest, and because it's Friday. And, stay tuned for our buddies Scott and Scott. They'll be coming up with, of course, Back to the Window at 3 p.m. right here on the Winners and Whiners Sports Betting Network. So by all means, check them out. And, also in the show box below, take a look at all of our partners, which, of course, is Caesars Sportsbook. It's MGM, which is BetMGM. And using their apps, you've got all kinds of fun stuff coming up. And if you're in Louisiana, Bet Rivers is another of our sponsors. So by all means, be sure to check out our sponsors and also our podcasts, which you can get. The links for the podcasts are below. You can get us, of course, at Apple Podcasts, at the folks at iHeartRadio and Spreaker, Spotify, and pretty much wherever you get your podcasts. So if you miss us on YouTube or Facebook or Twitch or Twitter, you can always catch us on the podcast, and you can like and subscribe for that too. So we greatly appreciate all of it because, look, we like doing the show. We like doing the show with you all. So we greatly appreciate it.
It's 26-18 Ohio.
There's an update. Thanks, James, for that big update. And for those of you wanting to follow that game, just James will stay here and give you updates all afternoon. No, I assume it's on ESPN. Otherwise,
or on ESPN Plus anyway.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that James is not actually at the game giving us live updates from the court. But anyway, greatly appreciated, James. Chris, any final thoughts before we get out of here on a Thursday?
I'm going to be interested to see how much further this Brian Flores thing goes now that Hugh Jackson is trying to say that the Browns incentivized losing when he was the coach there. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it definitely is going to be very interesting. And, of course, Brian Flores is interviewing for the Houston Texans job. So we'll see how that goes. But that's going to be – it definitely is going to be a to-be-continued story. There's no question about that. It will be. And, folks, be careful out there. The weather outside is not nice. So wherever you are in the country, whether you're on the east or the Midwest, down the Southwest, it's pretty nasty out there. So by all means, be safe, be careful, and join us tomorrow at 1:30.
And John, we talked about IUPUI earlier. James asked about it. We don't have any faith in the Jaguars.
Sorry, buddy.
Even though they did beat East West University.
Yeah, East, West, North, South is their next one. All right. Well, look, guys, greatly appreciate it. Look, I said before, we have a lot of fun with you all. Bring your questions. We'll see you tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. for the Friday edition. And we'll have some looks at the weekend. We'll have a guest for you. And enjoy your afternoon, folks. Really. Enjoy it. And we'll see you 1:30 tomorrow right here on Just Parlays with Chris King and myself, Jim Williams.